like HDMI projections or something to that. We good, Kyle? We're good. Thumbs up. Excellent. All right. Do you want to kick us off? You're basically just going to call our meeting to order. Nope, you're totally good. You're going to call our meeting to order, and then we're going to start through the agenda.
All right.
Kind of work through that. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, sweet.
All right, I call our meeting to order. It is Wednesday, December 18th, and it's 6:35 p.m.
Perfect. I was like, you can see that? That's really good. That doesn't work that
Oh, we
good
know
anymore.
she's part of the youth commissioner.
So then the first item on our agenda is,
We'll start with roll call.
excellent, so then I would do that for you. So Commissioner Gedkin, Commissioner Bars, Commissioner LaGrange, Commissioner Chan, and then Philip Crawford, right? Commissioner Philip Crawford, excellent. Commissioner Vemi Reddy is not here this evening, and I'm Antonio Montez, the staff liaison to this commission, so it's good to see y'all in December. I'm happy we're here. All right, so item 2 on our agenda. Our
We'll
chair.
receive the public comment.
All right, so we'll open any public comments that we may have. I don't see anyone, do you?
All right.
All right, excellent. Okay, well, we can probably close our public comment period then. We should do so just with a vote. So, at this time, we should probably have a motion to close the public comment period from someone.
Motion to close.
I'll second.
All right, so it's been moved and properly seconded that we close the public comment period.
All right, let's move to the approval of meeting minutes.
We gotta vote first.
Oh, wait.
So after you get the first and the second, then you would call for the
Okay.
vote. So you'd say, all those in favor, say aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. We've closed our public comment period, so. Now we're on to the next agenda.
Approval of meeting minutes.
So the approval of the November 2024 meeting minutes. I don't know if you had a chance to look at those, but they come through accurately. So were there any changes that we needed to make, or did you all caught?
No.
I didn't either, okay. So if everyone is okay, then you would call for another motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I call for a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
There you go.
So moved.
Second.
We're on it.
And then a vote,
Well, you'd say it's been moved and properly seconded.
moved and properly seconded.
That we approve the meeting minutes from November.
That we approve the meeting minutes from November.
All those in favor?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
We always call for opposed, just in
Any
case.
opposed? Okay.
Motion carries.
All right, motion carries. Let's move on to the business items.
Yes. Awesome. The formalities, it's different, but it definitely helps if you were in a bigger meeting and you had to, move work along. This does help do that. So I'm glad you all are getting exposure to this because I didn't get it until well after college. So it's cool that y'all are getting it. Okay, so the first item on our business items, so we have to, as a commission, announce our meetings for the upcoming year. Generally, our meetings are on the third Wednesdays of each month. Our February meeting and our August meeting of 2025 conflict with another meeting, which I think is a city council meeting, which means that, well, we have to find a new date to have those meetings. So that can happen pretty much whenever, so long as the city council chambers are open and available. I did look at the schedule and make a recommendation that our February meeting would be Wednesday, February 12th. That was just an open date in the city council chamber, so I figured we could do it that day. I don't know if you all have things on Wednesday that you normally do, and we should not do a Wednesday. I just wanted to put that out there for consideration for the February meeting.
That one worked for me.
Okay?
Same time.
Should be fine. I have to check my schedule, but yeah, most likely I'll probably be free then.
Okay. So 6:30, yes, would be the start time. Would be done by 8. That's always my goal, is to get y'all out of here on time. But it would just be that Wednesday the 12th in place of the following Wednesday, which is likely the 19th. if my math is correct. Okay, so then, Wednesday, February 12th, 2025 will be the February EIC meeting for that day. All right. We also have a conflict in August. Similar story. So there's 2 dates that I proposed for that, depending on how you all wanted to do it. We could do it kind of the same model as our February one, Wednesday, August 13th. Or we could keep it on a Thursday, if that works for you all.
Oh, that's my birthday.
Is it really?
Aw.
wife's
Should
birthday
do,
too,
we sing happy
actually.
birthday to you.
Yeah, we could sing happy birthday.
It's my lunar birthday too.
It's your lunar birthday? Well, then clearly it's the 13th of August then.
Yeah.
Or we could do it Thursday, August 21st is an option also. Do y'all have a preference?
I would prefer the 21st.
You don't want to spend your birthday with us, Glenn? What's up? I thought we were friends.
Test, actually.
That was the test.
Understood.
21st is
Yeah.
fine.
21st is fine. Let me just make sure that, yeah, that is a Thursday. Okay, so August 21st, and that would be 6:30. And so we'll do that, and then you can have a big fun party on your birthday. Does that work okay?
Thank you.
Of course, only if we get invited. Totally joking, you definitely don't invite us. Definitely don't invite us. Okay,
Come without being invited.
we're just gonna crash your party. That's what we're gonna do. Okay, great. And then I'll just throw this out there. If you all, so most commissions take like a month off, and sometimes it's in the summer, sometimes it's during the winter. So I'm kind of springing this on y'all last minute, so we don't have to decide today. But if you want to say June, July, August, and or like maybe next December, whatever the case is, we don't have to make that decision tonight. But if you're like, yeah, actually, July would make sense or whatever makes sense, like we could take a month off if you all wanted. So
What are the dates of those meetings, if you have them with you?
I don't have them officially. That's what we're doing. But if we were gonna do I can just tell you the June third Wednesday in June would be June 18th.
Okay.
The third Wednesday in July would be July 16th. And then the third Wednesday we just did August, never mind. August would be the 21st, but we can't meet on the 20th. So we're meeting on the 21st right now. And then into September is kind of that fall. So why don't y'all think on it? Now, if we want to pivot going into next year, we can do that. Okay. One other thing I wanted to call out for you all. So our commission has 8 seats. We're not currently filled. In January, we'll declare vacancies for all of our commissions, not just EIC, but any vacancies on, Public Works and Engineering Commission, the Planning Commission, the Parks Commission, the Finance Commission. Those will be declared vacant, so folks will be applying. We'll also declare our 3 vacancies that we have right now. We've had those since we started, so it's not like we lost anyone. But folks will be able to apply to the EIC to join us. My intent, if we do get new applicants and they come on board, is to do a lot of the stuff we've done, but do it with them individually on a different time, and just pull them up to where we're at right now, just level setting the foundational stuff. So we won't do that again, but I just wanted y'all to be aware that if you see vacancies for the commission, or if you know really cool people that should be a part of this work, like invite them to apply to it so they can be on the commission with us. But you may see that there's 3 seats that are open for the EIC that will be asking for folks to come join our commission. So don't get worried if you see any seats. Everyone's still coming back, hopefully, as long as you'll come back. And we'll hopefully fill some more seats and have more people at the table with us. So you'll see that coming out.
And does the council vet them, or does that go through this group?
That's a really good question. It would be the same process you all went through. So they would do interviews with the council, and the council would do the appointments. Yeah, more to come, hopefully, as we continue to move forward. And bring more youth on our commissions. That's really important. So, any other questions about the schedule, of the review, the approval, anything like that? Okay, so what I'm gonna what I'm hearing is we'll keep all of our meetings with the exception of February and August, the third Thursdays of the month, and then third Wednesday, sorry, yes. I'm looking at this Thursday that we switched to. And then the February meeting will be Wednesday, February 12th, and then the August meeting will be Thursday, August 21st. Good? All right. Excellent. Okay. You know, we spent a lot of time looking at the Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan, and I appreciate you all for doing that with me. I know it may have felt like, oh, this is really slow, but I thought it was really important, to your point, that we made sure that we knew what that was. And as we closed out that really long session, you know, I said something around the definitions. I said, I want to sit here and read these definitions to you because you all are very capable of doing so. But as I reflected on that comment over the last month or so, what I have come to decide on is that it's really important for us to know what we mean when we say diversity, equity, and inclusion. Specifically those three words. There's a lot of other definitions in the packet, and you all can read those at your leisure. But I do think that it's really important for us to be on the same page when we say the word diversity, when we say the word equity, and we say the word inclusion. What do those things mean to us as a city broadly? And so I wanted to be able to share that information with you and then have some discussion if we needed to around what that means. So what I'd like to do is pull up the agenda here and look at the attachment for. So what I did was I just took this one page out of the Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan, which is obviously multiple pages. We all looked at that. And so I just added this as the attachment for our meeting today and wanted to just spend some time looking at diversity, equity, and inclusion as it's been defined by the city as a part of our Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan. So let me blow this up here because I don't have those youth commissioner eyes. All right. So at the city, we generally say that diversity is the presence of variety in one place. We often measure it based on the variety of demographics and their intersections within the city of Roseville, as defined by the U.S. Census Bureau, including race, religion, national origin, gender, marital status, familial status, immigration status, sexual orientation, age, income, or ability. Diversity may also describe a set of actions to accommodate variety. For the purposes of this document, diversity refers to the variety of demographics and their intersections within the city of Roseville as defined by the U.S. Census Bureau, such as race, ethnicity, age, gender, disability, income level, and other meaningful socioeconomic differences.
What does he mean by intersections?
So where community would connect into the city itself, whether that's you're at a park and you connect with a parks person at the park doing some maintenance, or you're at your home doing some yard work and one of our engineers is out in your neighborhood filling a pothole, whatever that looks like. That would be an intersection of community with the city. It could be you coming into our office and requesting a permit, whether it's the building permit or whether it's a business permit, you could do that here. So anytime that community connects or interacts with the city in the variety of different ways, it includes our police, includes our fire, includes all the other services that we offer.
Okay.
Yeah. What other questions may you have, or parts where maybe we need more clarity or discussion? It's important because you'll also hear sometimes when you where we talk a lot about our housing, right? And the housing that's available in Roseville. So we'll talk about diverse options in housing, right? And so that's about do we have multifamilies, we have single families, we have townhomes, do we have apartments, things like that, right? So diversity can mean different things based on the context of it. And I think that's why it's important for us to understand that we're focused on all of the things that are identified in the census And that's why the census is so important. So those are the pieces that, when we say diversity, those are the pieces that we're talking about in this commission and in the work that we do. Thoughts, questions? We all good? We feel good about this? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay. All right, that was easy. I remember. All right, so the other one is equity that I felt like we should probably talk about. What does that mean? So equity is freedom from systemic bias or favoritism, parity across differences, product and service access, opportunity, quality, and outcomes that do not vary by race, gender, marital status, familial status, immigration status, sexual orientation, age, income, ability, or any other socioeconomic differences.
Do you define parity?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. It's like sameness to the extent that there's not a difference in home ownership rates or a difference in income or in like wealth, which generally, you look at like not how much you make, but how much your family may be worth as it relates to like having assets like a home or savings accounts and investment accounts, stuff like that. So the parity across the differences would be like sameness, not necessarily that, one demographic or one type of person has higher, whatever we're looking at, that we all have kind of equal opportunity. That's how I see it. Do other folks see it that way?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think equity in general, I see a little bit more depth than just thinking about equality.
Mm-hmm.
So sameness in terms of outcomes, but I think equity is a recognition that to get that sameness in outcomes, some groups need more support to get there than others based on systemic bias, historical systemic bias, and present day.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what one community may need may be different than what another community needs. And we recognize that those two communities are different, right? So how do we meet community where they're at with what they need to help so that we have the same opportunities? Anything else about equity? Questions, comments? Feeling good? All right, very easy. All right, and then inclusion. Inclusion is just about including many different types of people and treating them all fairly and equally.
I think it's interesting that this definition uses equally
Mm-hmm.
instead of equitably. So it's a very short definition compared to all the others, so it's sort of like they got tired.
Yeah, and I think it's hard because sometimes you don't want to use, this was developed before I got here, but I think it's hard because you don't want to use another defined word or term in the
Yeah.
definition of another word, so that may have gone into a little bit. And maybe some intentionality around differentiating inclusion from equity, right? Because sometimes those two things are mixed a little bit. And to me, when I see like treating them all fairly and equally, I really see that as like, how are we including all those different types of voices beyond just like, oh, you're here, right? You have an opportunity to provide feedback and input, guide decision making, right? It's not just the same folks making decisions, and that's the inclusion component of this. So that's what I always challenge leaders to do, right? Is how are we not only bringing folks into the process, but finding opportunities for them to influence the way we're doing things. What do you all think?
I feel The definition is kind of just straight to the point, like that's what it is. There's nothing hidden about it or anything like that.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap the strategic racial equity action plan, one of the things that I would like for us to think about is what does the next phase of this look like? This has been in place for some time now. I think it was 21, right? Is that what we said? Yeah, 21. So we're obviously going into 25 now. And so what does the next phase or initiative around this type of larger action plan work look like? If it's still appropriate, maybe it's not, I don't know. But I think it's just something that I'd like for us to continue to have conversations about as we're looking forward to the future. I'll share with you all shortly here some of kind of the long range when I first started that I proposed around equity and inclusion. So one of those things is talking about what do we do next for this. And I don't know, I don't have the answer. I don't pretend to have the answer. So hopefully we can have conversations about what does that look like to get to the outcomes that we hope to see. All right. We're right on time. I'm loving this. This is awesome. We don't often do this. So, okay. All right, so I'm gonna shift gears to our next business item, if that's all right with you all, which is kind of the overview of the organization and just a little snippet of what do those departments do. I thought the best way to do that was just to look at our official web page that kind of gives overviews of each department. Our chair and vice chair wanted to know a little bit more into the deeper dive into what do the departments do. So I'm hopeful we can do a little bit of a deep dive, not too deep, but you all can hear a little bit about what each department does and ask questions, and I'll answer them as I can. And if I can't, I'll get the information and kind of go from there. Does that work? All right. So I think the best place for us to start is the city manager. Roseville is one of the cities that has part-time elected city council members. So they're not full-time, they're part-time. And we have a city manager that's the full-time employee that runs the city and all of the operations of the city, right? So city council, we'll talk a little bit about this, but it says here, the city council sets the policies, the legislative direction, and the budget for the city. So we did just get our budget passed. I don't know if you all saw that or heard about it, but we passed our budget in December, early December. So that meeting is available. The city council meeting's online. I think it was the December 6th meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So if you wanted to go back and watch it, maybe it wasn't the 6th, maybe it was the 2nd. It must have been December 2nd. Which is really cool, and it went well, so we're super excited about that. But the city council does policies, legislative direction, and budget. And then the city manager is appointed by the council to carry out the administrative duties. So the doing of what the city council says they want to do happens by the city manager and then all of the other departments, right? So they tell us what they'd like to do, and we find a way to make it happen. So you'll see here, we run the day-to-day stuff. We talked about that. The city manager is the liaison between the council and the other commissions. So there's a handful of other commissions. We'll look at those for just a quick minute. And we make sure that things like statutes and ordinances and resolutions are all followed. And then when we're going to a city council meeting, the city manager and staff are the folks that pull that process together and do just like we do. We set the agendas together and we decide what we need to talk about. So that's a very collaborative process between the city manager and team and the city council, which is really great. And then they have the conversation just like we are right now, right? If you're talking about making a decision about, I don't know, property or a development, whatever the case is, the council's a part of that. City brings forward recommendations based on our knowledge and what other cities have done. So it's a really collaborative process, which I really appreciate. Let's see here, anything else? So obviously we're responsible for making sure we stay within the budget. That's really important. So the city manager and the department heads make sure that that happens. And then just long-term planning, folks call in and want to inquire about something, whether it's related to city council or it's related to something happening in the city, that doesn't go to the city council because they're part-time folks. So it comes to the city manager and team to respond to them. So let's see here, 7 department directors. We'll talk about those, and here's all the departments. Here's some information about Pat. Pat's been with us since 2007. He was originally the community development director, so the folks that do all the housing development and planning development for the city. Pat led all that, and then in 2014 he was appointed the city manager. Before that, he grew up in Wisconsin. We don't hold it against him. He's a Green Bay fan, but hey, it is what it is. But really, I like Pat a lot. He's a good guy. So here's our mission statement. So City of Roseville's mission statement is to provide the citizens of Roseville with an ethical local government structure which ensures the community's public safety, health, quality of life, and general welfare in a manner that is accountable to both current and future generations. Questions about the city manager and their role and how it connects to this stuff? Okay. I don't want to take forever on this with y'all. So if you have questions, shout it out. We've been together long enough. I feel like we can do that. So, okay. So this is Rebecca Olson. Don't tell her I showed you this picture and this page. She would not be happy with me because she's very much out of the sight of, out of the spotlights. But she's really cool. I like Rebecca a lot. So Rebecca leads our administration team. Rebecca's the assistant city manager. And in administration, we kind of lead a lot of really important stuff across the city. And those things are all led by Rebecca, of course. And Rebecca's really kind of the person. Pat does a lot of stuff and Rebecca makes it happen. And so implements city council policies. The admin team is a group of folks, the deputy clerk. So the administration person that does so much stuff across the city. Any licenses for businesses, the deputy clerk handles. Agenda packets, the deputy clerk handles, just a lot of stuff that our deputy clerk does. Human resources sits in our office, so anything around hiring, anything around wages, anything around anything related to the human resources part of our work happens in administration. Community relations is a team that's in our office. That's the folks that do the newspaper, so if you like the newspaper, the community relations team does that. And then we also have a volunteer manager that sits in our office as well, who is a full-time person that makes sure that all of the areas that we need volunteers at happens, right? Like the nature center, oftentimes it's staffed with volunteers. I learned that recently, which is super cool. So there's a person that makes sure that all the volunteers.
Who's that?
The volunteer manager is Rachel Boggs.
Okay, Rachel.
Have you ever met Rachel? Yeah, well, you all met Rachel as part of your application process. So in addition to doing volunteers for things, Rachel also helps with our commission application. So really is the person that helps make that a really seamless process. So very cool. And then I sit in administration too. So anything else here? A lot of the same stuff that the city manager does in terms of recommendations for council consideration, making sure laws and ordinances are followed, personnel policies, procedures, information to residents about activities in the city. That's part of the newspaper that you all get. Ramsey County elections. So Ramsey County holds the elections in terms of make sure the elections happen, but we support and assist when necessary for spots in Roseville. Volunteer opportunities as you've seen. And then we do a lot of, you never realized how many massage places there are in Roseville, but all those applications come through our office here. And then liquor license applications as well are handled in this office. So, and then we renew those and review them every year. Questions about admin?
Has the DEI function always reported in through admin?
Yes. We always sit in administration. It's kind of like the central point that works across all of the organizations, so it makes sense, right, to be connect with human resources and that stuff. So, yeah. All right. So administration, we did that. Where's my big list of other areas? Here we go. So we'll stop in community development quickly. Janice Gundlach is our community development director. And community development's focus is to provide Roseville with a safe, high-quality living environment and a diverse economic and social base. Community Development Department can help you with a bunch of different stuff that's listed here. Building permits, they do code enforcement. So if you are like, hey, my neighbor's got like 8 cars in their driveway or on their property, they'd go and make sure like, hey, here's the code. You can either have these here or you need to move them. They need to be running, stuff like that. Economic development, which is really cool. So thinking about how are we bringing in businesses into Roseville versus Shoreview or other areas. Planning and zoning is a big thing that the community development team does. So if you have an open plot of land that needs to be developed, they do all the deciding like, this is residential, this is commercial, or it was commercial, we want it to be residential, or we want it to be both. That all happens in Janice's team. There is a planning commission, but I feel like I should do the commission separate so we don't get lost on those. Questions about community development? All right. Shout if you do. All right, finance is led by Michelle Petrick. And there's 2 divisions in finance. So there's the finance side of finance, and then there's the license center. So if you've ever gone to the license center and had to get your license or an ID or whatever, that reports into Michelle. Eventually, there is a person on site that is kind of the leader of that. But Michelle ultimately sits with the license center as part of their reporting structure. So Michelle's team does a lot of our budgeting and financial planning for the city, accounting and reporting, risk management, utility billing. So when you get bills for your water, that comes from here and Michelle's team. And then some business licensing support too. You can find budgeting and financial reports on our website if you're interested. If you have questions about utility billing or the Passport Center, License Center, all that is right here and available and led by Michelle.
Do all of them work in this building?
Do the folks that we're looking at? Yeah. Yep, so all of our department heads work here, yes.
Okay.
Well, across the street, we have the Maintenance and Operations Center, which is where some of our like foremans are, what those leaders are called, that kind of lead those areas for streets and such. And then the Oval, but yeah, all of our department heads sit here. Which, did you all know that the Oval is one of the only speed skating, like Olympic-sized speed skating rinks in the country? There's only like 4 or 5 of them.
You serious?
No, I'm serious. They just had an event. Matt was just telling us, what was it? There was an event last weekend. And because there's only a handful of these in the country, like people come from across the country to do like speed skating like competitively. So it's a really cool feature that we offer that outside. People have access to that. So yeah, there's also a skating event like on New Year's Eve day. It's a really big event. So if you're looking for something fun to do, I think it's like 2 to 10 or 2 to 9 or something like that. They do a countdown at like 8. So if you've got young people with you and you're like, I don't really want to be up till midnight, it's a way to. So you should check it out. It's pretty cool. We'll get to parks in a second. I'm really burying the.
It's also the second year voted the best ice skating facility in the country.
Really?
It was in the newsletter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Newsletter.
So much good information in the newsletter.
Such a good newsletter.
Yeah.
We should just go to parks right now. We'll
Yeah.
come back to fire. So here's the parks page. There's tons of stuff here, y'all. Parks does so much stuff. The skating center, to your point. The nature center, which I just got to go to like recently. Have y'all been to the nature center yet? Yeah.
So
You should go. It's right across the street from Victoria Park, kind of hidden in the back. I actually went there for a meeting and I stopped at the first building, which is not the nature center. That's the
Wildlife rescue.
Yes, so I'm sitting here and I'm waiting outside. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go in. It's at 9 o'clock. I was supposed to meet at 9 o'clock. I'm like, oh, maybe they're running a little bit late. People are like lining up and they got these boxes with like, I'm like, why has everybody got animals here? This is really weird. So then I was like, this is awkward. And they're like, what do you have? And I'm like, oh, I forgot something in my car. And then realized there was another building like back in the way, but really cool. You should go check it out.
One of the teacher at the Harris Center has very positive compliment on you. She was attended one of the training sessions you did several months ago.
People are so kind. Thank you for sharing that.
It's a wonderful place. Check it out. They need volunteers all the
Yes.
time.
They
Yes.
put on some great events there.
Yeah, they do. They do a lot of really cool events. So go check it out. Really cool. Cedar Home Golf Course. That's one of our big kind of assets for our park system.
Is that one by Target? Okay.
Right behind Target. Yeah, right there. So not far from here. And then just there's lots of gathering spaces. We have buildings across the way. So lots of stuff here. Oh, here's the, I think, well, what is this? Park the Nice. Is this what I was thinking? No, that's not it. I thought there was maybe here it is. Let's check this out. New Year's Eve on Ice, 2 to 9. So y'all looking for something to do.
I wish I could skate, man. Oh my gosh.
You should do it. You can rent skates there. See, it's an Olympic-sized track. Yeah, so if you are looking for something fun to do, big family thing, all that good stuff. So you should come. I think Matt said we get over 1,000 folks that come out. Yeah, it's really cool.
The lights that are on the Christmas trees by the Oval are so pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, so they do skate rental. If you're interested, it looks like there's a $10 fee to participate and then a $5 fee for skates. So you should go check it out. It's fun. All right. Questions about parks? No? All right, sweet. All right, let's go back to, we were on government, finance, fire. All right, so here's Dave Brosnahan is our fire chief. The fire station is across the parking lot. If you haven't been there, that's also really cool. That's a picture of a summer event where they do kind of like a come check us out, see the fire truck, stand on it. It's really cool. Tons of young people love to do that type of thing. There's another picture on the screen there. Dave and team are really cool. So they do a lot of emergency response stuff. Obviously, if you call 911 and they send a fire truck it's going to be, if you're in Roseville, it's going to be our team. So they do fire prevention, fire suppression. They do some rescue, medical first responder services. We have a full-time fire chief, an assistant chief, 3 battalion chiefs, and then 24 full-time firefighters, 12 part-time firefighters, and a coordinator. You can see here that annually we do over 5,500 calls, and here's the kind of calls that we do. One of the things I wanted to call out for you all, which I know Dave is really proud of, and you may have heard me talk about it. We have a cadet program in the fire department. It's traditionally, it's hard to get into fire. If you are interested in moving into firefighting as a career, there's some barriers, like you have to have like some EMS and EMT certifications and licensures, and then you have to get an opportunity, and then you have to learn how to do all this stuff, right? So sometimes it's a really difficult field to break into. But I'm really proud of the work that our fire team has been doing here by removing some of those barriers and recognizing we can do some on-the-job training with people as they're moving into this career field. And then we can also help them get their EMTs and their EMSs, right? So they can become paramedics, right? So that's what the certifications for like paramedics are. You EMS, emergency medical services, emergency, what's the T? Emergency technician, and then you're a paramedic, right? So you kind of go through those certification pathways. And it's not always super easy to do. It's not always cost effective or easy to pay for. So the cadet program is a way to do that, right? We bring folks on, we do on-the-job training with them, and then they're earning income, and then they can then go pursue some of the other certifications and then become full-time firefighters. I think we've hired 5 cadets. We take 2 at a time generally, and they kind of go through the program. It's only been going on for a couple years, but I think we've hired 5, and I think 1 other cadet got a full-time opportunity with another local fire agency. So it's a really cool program that Dave and team have really invested time, energy into, and making sure that folks have an opportunity to pursue firefighting as a career. We just had our last posting for cadets, and I think the number of applications was like well over 100 for 2 cadet positions, well over 100.
It's hard to choose, yeah.
You said what?
Seems hard to choose.
Yeah, you're trying to be intentional about your goals and what you want to do in terms of creating access and opportunity. So it's we wish we had more opportunity for folks to be cadets, right? So
Is that after high school? Or
I think mostly folks have graduated, and it's generally folks that are pursuing firefighting as a career. So yeah.
I think the other 2 services I'm aware of is they provide community education and fire safety. So you request you come to your building, we'll do that. I think we have done that before. 2 months ago, I think they offer a monthly training on hands-only CPR, meaning there's no more mouth-to-mouth. So there's a new theory. So you can look up the website and attend. So it's something that's good to have. You're not getting certified, but you're getting the full training.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, right here, fire safety education. Yep. Very cool. Thanks for that, Alfred. All right. Any questions about fire? All right, we're on time, so this is good. We talked about the license center, so I will skip over that one. But if you have questions, let me know. Passports. Similarly, so let's pop into police. So here's Chief Scheider. I really appreciate Chief Scheider always willing to come to the table and be a really great partner and really leading through a community lens in relationship building, being transparent with our work that we do in law enforcement. So I really appreciate Chief Scheider for that. You'll see right here, we're committed to community-oriented policing. We strive to establish connections with all community members and rely on a positive relationships to solve problems in Roseville. Community partnerships are vital in keeping Roseville a safe community. So what I really love about that is we're not talking about like punitive, we're gonna enforce this, and if you don't follow the rules, you're gonna be in trouble. It's about how are we in relationship with community and building that relationship. So just welcome to the website and then all this stuff. If you know folks that are looking to get into law enforcement, we're always looking to bring in new officers. So if you know folks, feel free to send them our way. And then here you'll see more information about, how do you file a police report, crime prevention strategies, divisions. So we've got administration, which is here in the headquarter office across the way. We have an investigation team, a patrol team, and then we also have a community service team. So the community action team, which they call the CAT team, is I think 5 folks are on that team that do exactly what it sounds like, right? We're trying to build community and maybe not respond with a, if someone is, soliciting or something like that in an area of our city, it's not always let's send patrol there. It's hey, let's send our community action team who can come with different resources and say, hey, do you need help with our connection to housing? Do you need connection to shelter? Do you need connection to, are there things that we could help connect you to in place of just saying, you can't be here, see you later, and then also if you're not gone, then we're gonna arrest you, right? So how do we be more human-centered in that way? So I really appreciate the team for kind of focusing on that. We also have a position that's their whole role is community engagement, right? What is the force doing to build relationships in community? So we have some school resource officers that are in the high school and in the middle school, and our community engagement person in police is oftentimes working with that officer. So I was just at an event last week or the week before, time flies when you're having fun, where we just were together, just kind of like humanizing the badge, right? Like officers are humans also and have interest outside of like checking on you to make sure you're in class, they do things like, hey, I play pickleball, I eat food, right? So how do we connect and build beyond just the fact that I've got a badge and you think about me as a police officer, but like I'm a person, you're a person. Let's build relationships. So they call those breaking down barrier events, which are really cool. So we were at an event last week or the week before at Smash Park, or that's what it's called right here, right? Smash. And we did pickleball. That's why I thought that. They were at the middle school, I think the week before that, doing kind of like pickup basketball with the young people. So just really trying to build those relationships and be intentional. And so they're doing a lot of really good work there. Any questions about law enforcement? Okay. All right. And I think last but not least, we got Public Works. So this is Jesse. Jesse Freihammer is our Public Works Director. He's also an engineer, very smart person. They're doing lots of cool stuff in Public Works. I would tell you that most of the big roads in Roseville are not owned by the city. So like Snelling is owned by MnDOT in the state of Minnesota. And when I say owned, I mean they're responsible for them. All the county roads like County B, County B2, County C, those are owned by and maintained by Ramsey County. So if you see big construction projects on any of those roads and people are complaining to you about them, it's the county or the state, it's not the city. We do maintain streets, but generally not the ones that people are upset about because they're the ones that are stopping you from getting to Target or they're stopping you from getting to Walmart, right? Those are county projects often. So let's see here. Really big initiative that happened in 2024 was the lead-free Roseville. If you all are familiar with that, that kind of happened in Jesse's shop. I want to say he said we got like 90% response on that, which was really good, right? And so, yeah, there you go. See.
That's how I found out about it. Was the newsletter.
Yeah, so lots of really good stuff there. Really cool in our public works areas where a lot of our sustainability work lays. So if you know or heard the name Noelle Bakken, Noelle is always everywhere all the time. I love Noelle. Noelle is our sustainability specialist. So a lot of just really great stuff there around recycling. Also the I'm gonna forget the name of the initiative, but where we're trying to get rid of like plastic takeout stuff for restaurants is really in Noelle's area, so really cool there. So any of the sustainability initiatives that we have as a city really are led by Noelle, which is really cool. Don't ask me any questions about her work. I can invite her to a meeting if you have questions, but I don't know a ton about it and I don't wanna do it any disservice, so here's some goals around that. And then of course we have traditional like your engineering team, design and construction and all that stuff is here, right? So that team leads that. And then maintenance, we have a maintenance team that street and storm and water and sewer obviously. Here's their overview, which is kind of burying the lead, Jesse. I need to talk to him about that. Any questions about that or any other departments that we've talked about? Do y'all feel better about?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right, sweet. All right, and then I won't spend a ton of time on these, but I want, we do have other commissions that you all are aware of. So you heard me, or you got my email asking about the Ethics Commission. That's a commission that's just really seated by folks that are already on other commissions. Anything that violates ethic codes, the Ethics Commission will come together and have conversations about that. So I think Praj is gonna sit on that for us, so. And then the Finance Commission is really the community-based finance arm, right? So in terms of, they meet monthly just like we do. They advise on short and long-term policy matters, financial policy matters, recommend budget goals, not the final decision maker, that's the council. The council decides like, actually, we wanna do more or do less than what the Finance Commission, you all right, Gwen?
I dropped my ring. I'm just like,
Oh, no,
It's over here.
look at that. See? We're better together,
thank you.
Yeah.
look at that. They do things like recommend the timeline for the city budget. review financial information, all that stuff around dollars and cents. And here's the folks that are on that commission if you ever wanted to reach out. All right. Question about the Finance Commission? No. Okay, sweet. You all know the EIC well. There's a Parks and Recs Commission, very similar. Guys on Parks and Rec stuff. I feel like I'm boring you all, so I'm not gonna spend a ton of time on this. Y'all let me know if you have any
I
questions.
actually enjoy it. I think it's good to know.
Yeah, this is
Oh.
really interesting.
Okay, let me slow down then. I'm like, I feel like I'm losing you all. We already did the finance. Let's go to Parks and Recs. So Parks and Recs Commission, their meetings are obviously monthly as well. And they make recommendations to the Director of Parks and Recreation, the city manager, and the city council on all matters relating to parks and recreation programs, facilities, and services. And I would just share, you know, Roseville has a significantly large parks like system. I think it's the biggest in the state, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I think I've heard Matt say that. So something to be really proud of, and we take a lot of pride in that as an organization. I hope you all do as residents as well. And it's not just like Central Park, right? It's so much more than that. There's some, I think they said over 90% of residents can walk to a park within like 10 minutes. That's how many parks and green spaces are in Roseville. That's incredible to think about.
Part of why we moved here.
It's wild. So really cool. Identify areas that may need action and or change to make sure that we have responsive parks and programming as well. We do programming here. How do we have citizens input concerning the city parks and recreation facilities? So that's where the commission comes into place. And here's the commission members. You all may have seen that there was recently some copper wire theft in Central Park. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, so Central Park across the way here, someone came in the middle of the night and stole all the copper wire out of the lights around. So that was an unfortunate situation. I can't remember exactly what Matt said. There was something where we replaced it, but there was some enhanced like visibility that we were gonna do as a city to try to deter that from happening again. It's been happening in St. Paul for a number of years, and in Minneapolis, I'm sure, just because folks can resell the copper for a pretty good rate. So it's one of those really crappy situations as a community that sometimes we have to face and deal with. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. The Planning Commission. So this is for the Community Development Department. So this is kind of their commission and community arm. And it has 7 members, and what do? They identify and address issues concerning development plans, policies, and specific applications for those things. So if you see a new, like the new development that was back here off of County Road C behind Smash Park, like as that got developed, that came through the Planning Commission first. And they kind of are the first step in terms of you want to develop a new something that would happen there. You want to redevelop an old factory that's no longer being used, that will go to the Planning Commission. I'm trying to think of some things that we've done recently. If there are questions about like, one that came through recently on City Council, there's a code on how tall your fence can be, like for a commercial space. And I think it's like, 8 feet or something like that. And there was an application to increase that to like 10 feet, which was obviously against the code. So if you wanted to like request a deviation from that because of special things, that would first go to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission would have conversation about it and say, yes, this makes sense. No, it doesn't make sense. Here's why it makes sense. Here's why it doesn't make sense. So that's like an application of what that could look like. There's a plot of land that's zoned for like one single family. Maybe you want it to be like a duplex, right? So you'd be a multi-family property instead of a single family. That would go to the Planning Commission and then go to City Council, right? So that's kind of the first step is the Planning Commission, and then it will go to the City Council afterwards. Good? And here's their team, so if you wanted to reach out to any of them.
Other teams have youth commissioners as well.
We're the only one.
Really?
So far.
Yeah,
So far, yes, the start of something great. So we always like to try things in government first. So we're trying it first here. And then we're gonna talk about how it could be really beneficial for the rest of the commissions to have youth and young voices on their commissions. So let's see here, planning, all right, we did planning, police, civil service. So this is actually really applicable because I just sat on a interview for police. So the police civil service reviews the employment practices of the police department to ensure that they are fair and reasonable as authorized by state statute. They objectively monitor and make determinations concerning employment practices rather than advocating for either police personnel or management. What questions do you have?
Very different this specifically is a very different commission than the rest.
So they kind of meet as necessary, and generally it's around we're doing some type of like relatively big promotion. So we recently interviewed for previously a lieutenant, and now it's a commander title. So there's 2 lieutenants in the title right now, and we're having a third. That will change to the title commander though at some point. I don't know the timeline exactly. But we had a representative from the Police Civil Service Commission that sat in on the interview process just to make sure that everything was fair and there was nothing. And I think when you see police personnel and you see management, that's like the city is the management, and then police personnel is like the police union, right? To make sure that there was a fair and there wasn't any, they're not gonna come in and say it should be, you know, Amanda over Antonio. They're gonna say this was a fair process and we agree and support. Kind of third party, if you will. So they don't meet regularly, they meet as needed when there's a hire. All right. So this commission is the Public Works, Environment, and Transportation. Its acronym is PWET. They advise City Council, City Manager, the Director of Public Works, Jesse, you all seen him, on public works, environmental, and transportation matters. Maintain an interest in and an understanding of the Public Works Department, and in federal, state, county, regional, and other services that impact the city's public works function. So public works oftentimes is, you know, about transportation, about, and that transportation, multimodal transportation, right? We're having more conversations about, traditionally we've done like very big street infrastructure investments, so car access and things like that. But what does bike access look like? What does commuter access look like, right? As we see folks' needs and desires changing from younger folks coming into the age of driving and getting around. It's not always the first choice is to get a car. Sometimes it's, you know, I want to take public transportation or I want to ride a bike more, things like that, right? So how are we thinking about multimodal transportation? So that's when you see things like regional, right? Like that's like the Metropolitan Council who advises on like the regional transportation plans beyond just City of Roseville. And then obviously we're a part of Ramsey County, so we need to be coordinated with Ramsey County and then the state of Minnesota on how we're thinking about those things. So the Public Works recently, I don't want to say redid, updated is the best word, our bike access transportation plan. So just bike pathways and pathways plan. Just as like I said, as areas change and we want to connect this part of town with that part of town, what's the best way to do it in a safe way? So pretty involved process around engaging community, bikers in the community to say, you know, what would encourage you to bike more? Is it, you know, a lot of places are doing like separated bike lanes now where it's like a bike path and then parking and then your driver lanes, right? So is it that kind of thing? Is on street okay, but just a lane for biking? Like what makes sense? So lots of conversation around that. happen in Public Works. And then the sustainability piece, which we talked about. And here's the folks on that commission, so if you wanted to reach out to anyone there. So when they're doing big projects, they usually will bring it to Public Works Commission first, and then it'll go to the council.
That seems like one of the differences with our commission versus some of these is there's not really a bringing to us.
Mhm.
It's more like, what do we want to work on? Is that a fair assessment?
I think yes, because many things are clearly defined in a code or a rule, right? Like you have a piece of land and you want to build a 20-story building on it, we've got rules against that, right? And so when those types of requests come forward, it would go to that planning commission first. And I think our work, I don't think is as rules-based. And so, yes, that is true. And so part of my hope and vision is that we find ways as a commission to help insert your lived experiences into the areas of our organization that you all are interested in, causing some good trouble, some meaningful change, and seeing what does that look like, right? As I think about our commission and kind of like what does the future look like to me, I think that there's opportunity to be involved in, I'll say, our workforce development, right? Like how are we, employing folks and making decisions around employment. I see some natural synergy and alignment through folks that are interested more in like policy, if that's kind of your shop and you're like, I want to read policy and I want to look at why are we making decisions about this versus that. I think that could be an area where we could really lean into. And so it wouldn't necessarily be like a bring it to the EIC, but it's like the EIC really heavily influenced that in the future.
Although, I mean, I could see clear connections between the work of this commission and each department.
Oh, yeah.
We went through in each commission.
100%.
So there certainly could be a world in which something goes to Parks and Rec first for consideration and then comes to us for
Yeah.
how is this impacting different populations, or something to do with sustainability and what's going to be the impact on vulnerable populations in that area. Or I could see there being, I don't want to add more steps to
Right.
bureaucratic processes,
Right.
but
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because I that was like kind of my third area, was a way that would bring in department heads to this space with us and say, here's what the next 6 months looks like. Here's what the next 12 months looks like. Or here's, to your point, this sustainability initiative that's maybe not 6 or 12 months away, but we're starting planning and it's probably 24 months away, but we're planning and we need these conversations and perspectives now. So I've already, I won't say set the expectation, am planting a seed for department heads to come into this space and share what are they doing, what are they up to, and where do we have opportunity, to your point, partner in and say, I'm really interested in this project. I want to, whatever that looks like. You know what I'm saying? So that those are kind of the three pathways I feel like our work could go in. So I think it's less about them bringing us every, application for this thing, and more about strategy and innovation and equity and inclusion and embedding that into the foundation of whatever they're developing, right? Like, that's kind of the hope that I'm hoping we can maybe figure that stuff out. So that's how I've been like workshopping this in my mind around, I want it to be less about like us going and doing something off in a silo over here, which is cool. I mean, it's not that there can't be really great stuff, but I want it to be more about us doing work across the various work that's already being done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
think there's a ton to do also around just working with different departments on how to use the data they already have to identify, like empowering them to understand, here's the information we're already collecting and here's how we could use it to look at differential impact or whatever it might be.
I love that. I love it. We I think I may have shared with you that we've been doing some strategic planning stuff. And I think that will be in January coming forward to the city council. And so hopefully we can, in our February meeting, put on with the agenda some strategic plan stuff so I can share with you some of the work that's been happening in that space, which is gonna give us a little bit of a direction and kind of where we're going. I mean, we have a direction, right? Serve the residents and all the stuff that you've seen that we've been spending time on, but really hopefully focusing our decision-making around some of the things that we say are really important to us, and data's a part of that, you know, all the things that we've been talking about, so yes, we're getting there. We're coming along. Causing good trouble. I think that's all of our commissions, isn't it? To do it.
Variance,
Board. So this is obviously a as needed meeting. So the variance board hears applications for variances and has the power to adopt them directly by resolution. Appeals of variance board decisions go before city council. So this is a part of our planning commission. So the planning commission is part of that. So talking about like the fence thing, like we needed a deviation from a 6-foot fence to a 10-foot fence. It goes into the variance board and then the variance board into the planning commission and the planning commission to the council. So it's like a step before.
By variance? Like what is that? Like variety of
Variance, I think, is more related to, I would say, and I'm open to other folks' thoughts, like variety in the sense that like we have a code or a rule and you want to do something that maybe is, I don't want to say against the rules because that implies like it's illegal, but you want to build something that is against a code. But there's good reason for you to want to build that. So you can request a variance to a code because it makes sense. Let's say there's a code that says you can't, build a shed within 3 feet of your property line or something like that. But if it makes sense for you to build the shed on your property line because of, I don't know, some factor, you could request that you could still do that even though it's against the code, and then the planning commission, the variance board would say, yeah, we don't see a problem with that, go ahead and do it. Or they'd say, no, we do see a problem with that and you can't do that. And then the person could then go to the city council and ask the city council if they would be willing to give that variance. So it's kind of like variety in the sense that you're asking for something that maybe is not in the code, but it's more like an exception is probably the better word. Like they're making an exception to a code or a rule. My experience is it's mostly with like building stuff,
Okay.
like the development of stuff.
Things, I think, lakefront setbacks, sometimes you cannot build anything within 10 feet of the water.
There you go. Better example.
You buy a lot that you have to require a 15-foot on both sides before you build a house, but then that makes your house too small. They say, well, I can't have 15 on both sides because the lot is it's a triangle.
Yeah.
So you, whatever the standard is, you ask approval to differ from that.
That's a great point. Really good. That's a really good example.
A lot of them is the lakefront. A lot of people fight that. Is property lines.
That's a really good example. Thank you. Does that clear it up a little bit? Okay. All right, sweet. Well, here's the deal. It's 7:43. I can go through my quick PowerPoint on kind of the stuff that I wanted to do when I first started, give you an update on where I'm at with that. Some of it's underway, some of it's not underway, and we're working through it. So I'll do that quickly, and then we'll be able to start in January with a whole new agenda items in terms of what we want to do. Sound good? All right, so when I sat down with Rebecca, who's really my partner in crime as it relates to our equity and inclusion work here at the city, I said, here's the things I want to do. And she said, great, go do it. And so all the stuff you see here is our vision on how we're going to do that stuff. So I think really what it's about is I long-term want us to be an organization that does all the stuff that we just talked about, embedding our thought process, our value, our interest in the definitions that we started with, like the parity across differences, right? Like I want us to be making decisions that are in alignment with that and putting us on the direction to make that happen, right? So all this is about how do we change, not how do we change, that's the wrong word. All this is about how do we make sure that we're involving equity and inclusion and prioritizing that beyond just like the dollars and cents and trying to make everything. We have to be aware of the budget, but we also can make decisions based on the work that we're doing here today. So I think that's what it's about. So real quick, that's my agenda. I presented this to the council. So this is the Sankofa bird. Are you all familiar with the Sankofa bird? It's an image that's oftentimes used in African tribes, and it's a bird, and you'll see its feet are pointed this way, right? So that's the direction that the bird is going. But the bird is looking backwards and reaching for this pebble. And generally speaking, the pebble is symbolizes knowledge and understanding and insights. And this picture is really about, we want to go in this direction, but we're looking back to evaluate the past on where we've been so that we know where we're going. And along the way, we're reaching for that knowledge and information that will guide us on our journey going forward. And I really think that that's really reflective of how we need to do our work. There's already been a lot of really good work that's been done before I got here, and we want to go in this direction. So I need to make sure that I'm looking back and acknowledging the really great work that's happened, picking up those pieces of information and knowledge that's come along the way, but also we're going this way and we got to go that way, right? So I always like this image because it really embodies a lot of that stuff and it centers me on what I'm doing. I shared some of this stuff already with you all on our journey, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but this is what we've done as a part of our work to build our equity and inclusion capacity in the city as an organization. Stop me if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going so I can get y'all out here at 8 o'clock.
Can you remind me what GARE equals?
Yeah, so GARE, thank you, is the Government Alliance for Racial Equity. So GARE, high level, real quick again, was a group of folks that came together and was really kind of on the front end of normalizing conversations around racial equity for government agencies. Because this work just wasn't normal conversations in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, right? It's normal now, but we weren't really talking about like race and disparities in outcomes for Black and brown folks compared to our white residents like we are today, right? And so GARE was kind of the front end of that. And a lot of agencies worked with GARE to try to figure out what can we do around advancing racial equity in our organization. So there was a group of folks here at City of Roseville that came together. I think it was about 15 folks from across the organization, and they participated in the learnings and some of the work that the GARE group, GARE did, right? And so that was like, a lot of their principles still make sense. It's about normalizing conversations, then it's about operationalizing them. Normalize, organize, and what's the third one? Normalize, organize, and operationalize, I think are the three. Normalize it, so you talk about it regularly enough that it just becomes natural. It's a part of your process, or part of your thinking. What we're talking about right now, right, which is pulling it across all of our organization, is that we talk about it enough that it just starts to be something that you see and think about and center. Then you organize a plan to do it, and then you actually do it, which is the implementation or operationalizing it. So that's the GARE group and kind of the GARE framework in like 2 sentences. You could Google them and find their website and get all the information. All right, so that's kind of where we've been. Any other questions? Hearing none, I'm gonna move on. So where are we now? You all looked at the Strategic Racial Equity Action Plan. We had at the time the Human Rights, Inclusion, and Engagement Commission, which is what predated this commission. That was something that the city was trying to just figure out, what are we gonna do with this commission, right? Because you had some folks on that commission, really great folks all around, but some folks wanted to do like engagement and be at events and like go shake hands, right? And say, I'm on the commission. You know, how do you like Roseville? And then some folks were like, actually, I want to do more policy focused stuff. I want to do more like change transformation work of the organization, right? So there was this kind of a little bit of some identity crises. And so when I came in, and you'll see it here, this is my vision statement for the organization. So an organization-wide equity and inclusion strategy that advances the community aspirations, our strategic racial equity action plan, and that's embedded in the strategic plan. It says a lot, but what to me it says is it's the Sankofa thing, right? We're all going in the same direction. Because right now we've got these community aspirations, which we spent some time talking about. We've got this strategic racial equity action plan, which really don't seem to fit together, right? And then we also have this strategic plan that's on, like, coming up. So how do we pull all these different things together and move in the same direction? And that we lead with equity and inclusion as a core principle in the way that we make decisions around budget, in the way that we make decisions around resources, in the way that we make decisions around what we're investing in going forward. So that was my vision for our equity and inclusion work. And I realized I didn't finish on the HRIC. I'll talk about that when we go through the next couple slides. This slide is really, to me, this is how I see my work. You can't do this work without relationships, so everything starts with a relationship. If we don't have a relationship, I can't have hard conversations with you, and it's gonna feel really uncomfortable, right? And we're not gonna have any type of authenticity or transparency, because you're gonna be guarded, specifically when we're talking about equity and inclusion, because no one wants to say the wrong thing, right? So I always start with relationship. When we have relationship, then we can build trust. When we have trust, then we can build partnership. And that partnership is me really understanding, what are you doing in public works? What are you doing in parks and recs? What are you doing in law enforcement, right? If I don't understand what you're doing, then I can't help you do our work together. Just because I can't sit in my office and say, you need to do better with your equity and inclusion. Well, what does that really mean? Right? Like we can talk about a policy change, which is great, but how does that improve the lives of our residents? How does it improve the work of the folks that come to work here every day? And it's not something that's just me sitting in an office making a decision based on some numbers in a spreadsheet. You can't do those things, right? They don't work. So then the normalizing or the awareness component, we raise awareness of our work, because, you know, not everyone has had experiences that have, what's the word I'm looking for? Some folks have had very homogenous experiences, so they've had their own experience, and everyone that they hang out with has had their own experiences. So when we talk about things like disparities or differences in outcomes, some folks are like, well, they're just making bad decisions. And, well, it's not always about just making a bad decision based on your background, right? You know, some folks may not have had any other decision to make other than what they made, right? So, but if you don't know those things, then it's hard to have a conversation about disparities and outcomes, right? If it's like, well, just work hard and you'll be able to buy a house. Well, you forgot the part where maybe you got help with your down payment because someone was able to pull equity out of their home and give you $100,000. One of the wildest things I ever heard, I was buying my house and my lender was like, hey, where are you gonna get your down payment from? And I said, well, I have it. And they said, well, is someone gonna loan it to you? Is someone gonna give you a down payment? And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, it's not, it's pretty regular that folks like will gift you your down payment. I said, well, nobody gifted me a down payment, so that's not my option, right? But it wasn't even something that I was aware of could be a thing, that someone would just say, here's $50,000 to go buy a house. Like, what? How does that even happen, right? So if you don't have different experiences, it's hard to talk about some of these things without first raising the awareness. After we've done that, then we're about action, right? How do we do this actionably, tangibly, beyond just saying we want to do better in equity and inclusion? We got to create action. The last piece is accountability, right? Because if there's not accountability, then you're not gonna do the other steps. But this happens circular, and some folks come into this at different points, right? So if you're a person that's like, I'm not gonna do it unless you hold me accountable, then maybe we have to start an accountability. If you're a person that's like, I don't buy into this because of all these different things, then hey, maybe we need to start with relationship and trust building. I just literally learned today that one of our department heads was a twin. No one else knew this. Isn't that wild? It's wild, right? But you don't have the relationship. So we gotta do those things, right? All right, and then while we're doing all that stuff on the outside, there's also this individual journey. So you as an individual are on your journey around equity and inclusion. And then you also are on a departmental journey. There's a team culture that's happening, and that's on its own journey, right? Because we know that there's kind of like this pack mentality. If someone is like, I love this and I'm all about it, and they get a couple folks around it, then the department's on a journey this way. If someone else that's really influential is like, I don't really like this, I don't want to talk about it, then you're on a different journey, right? So you have this individual and this departmental journey, and then we have the broad capital city organization, where we're going as an organization. So my work, I always feel like, is walking through this circle and then going up and down through the organization, right? So that's kind of how I see my work happening. It's circular and up and down. Good? Okay. Questions? It's a lot, I know, but this is my process. Okay, so where do we want to go? So Equity and Inclusion Commission, that's you all. Y'all made it, and I'm happy, I'm proud, I'm excited about where we're at. So that was kind of the first step on our journey as an organization, was to get a clear, cohesive direction that we were going as a commission, to say these are the things that we're gonna do, these are the things that we wanna do, and here's how they're gonna connect back to the city. I feel good about where we're at right now. The next step is exactly what y'all have been asking about, which is like, are they gonna bring us stuff, or what are we? So I think that's why those 3 tracks that I was kind of talking about, I think make a lot of sense. So as we move into January and February and folks start to do their strategic work plans, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to embed the EIC into some of that work. Awesome. Equity and Inclusion Steering Team. So this is our department head team. So all the folks that you saw, Michelle, Jesse, Janice, Matt, Dave, Erica, Paul, Pat, Rebecca, all those folks, I bring those folks together and we go on this journey. So we've been building relationship, we've been building trust, we've been building partnership, awareness, action, having conversations around lots of different things so that we can raise the awareness, build the capacity, and build the confidence and comfort to lead with equity and inclusion, both in decision making, both in culture building, and in everything that we're doing as an organization. So I bring that team together. We just had our meeting this month today. So I was with them this morning, and we spent 2 hours talking about how are we gonna do this. So that's underway, and it's happening, and we're making some really good progress there. The Equity and Inclusion Action Team is a team that I haven't stood up yet. This is a team of folks that will be across our organization, so every department and every area within the organization will be represented. And it won't just be the directors or the deputy directors, it'll be people from all levels of the organization, right? So whether you're an individual contributor on the front line, or you're a supervisor, we're gonna try to be intentional about creating space for all those different experiences and voices so that we can build capacity across our organization to continue to like do this work throughout, right? Because I'm one person and I can't get to every single person in our organization, but I know folks that work in every single part of our organization. So how do we identify those champions to help us normalize, organize, and then operationalize the ways that we can do our work together?
In your vision, how many humans are on this
Yeah,
team?
I think we're probably somewhere between 12 and 15. It's probably a little bigger than I would like, but I think we'll start there. If it grows, I would probably create a second one. If we got more folks that were like, I want to be a part of this, because I think we need more folks. But I think initially 12 to 15. I think it's small enough where we can do some effective and meaningful and impactful work, but big enough to represent multiple areas of our organization. Like Public Works, they've got the office here, but then they've got the shop there, so they would need multiple people, right? Our law enforcement, they're 24/7, fire's 24/7. So just having one person wouldn't really get to all the folks. And the hope is that we'll give these folks tools and empower them to do what I'm doing in their areas, right? So how are they building energy and capacity and interest in this work in their own areas, right? So they're kind of an extension of what we're doing. It's a good question though. My hope is to have this team up by the middle of quarter one. So middle to the end, yes. I've got all the stuff in place. What I'm also dealing with, y'all, is we've already pulled through a good amount of changes in the organization, and I don't want to have folks get change fatigue. So, you can deal with but so many changes in a period of time. And so I don't want folks to disengage because they feel like we're constantly changing. So they know this is on the plan and they're on board with it. But I also am like understanding that. And I'm going to real quickly get through the rest of this because it's almost 8 o'clock and I want to get y'all out of here. Employee resource groups, this is something that our team has identified we want to try to do, which is create community. I think this is going back to your comment last month when you talked about we can hire diverse folks, but what are we doing to support them? What are we doing to onboard them? How are we keeping them connected and engaged? And I think the employee resource groups is that spot for that, right? Like they're going to be connected with their area, but that may not be a space where they see folks that look like them or have the same experiences as them. But could we create some community across this organization for that type of thing? And I think that employee resource groups are the answer for that. And then initially I had departmental equity and inclusion action work plans. That was kind of what we were going to get to. I've pivoted this idea because now we're going to be developing department work plans as a part of our strategic planning. And instead of doing it over there in a silo, to your point, how are we pulling our work through? So that will be the new thing, right? So your department work plan will automatically have equity and inclusion embedded in it. So it's not like you have 2 work plans that you're doing that have separate initiatives. You have 1 work plan with its own initiatives, and we've done the research to figure out what does equity and inclusion look like in that. And that goes back to me understanding their work when I talk about partnership, right? I need to understand your work and what do you want to do? What are your goals? How do you do it? So that I can advise you on how we can meaningfully do this in your area. So there's that. It's 8:01. What do I got left? This is high level details. You all know this. I shared this with you. I meet monthly with my equity and inclusion leadership team. I also have many coffee, water talks with them throughout the month. The action team, I'm going to set that up. That's the one that's going to be here by middle to the end of quarter one. They'll be doing very similar stuff to the equity and inclusion leadership team, but it'll be just leaders across the organization, not necessarily just department heads. And that's really important because people can be really influential in an area that can really help our work, but maybe not be a director. So I wanted to make space for that. Resource groups, I talked about that. Work plans, I talked about the development of that idea. And here was my timeline, which is probably way off right now. But y'all get the idea. And that's it. It's 8:02. So I'm happy about that. Whew. That was a lot. What questions do y'all have? And I can table this for our next meeting and we can finish this in January if you want. We can start here. Or I can answer questions that you have right now. You let me know.
I have one question. What was the tops? There's a couple slides.
Yeah, thanks for that. I love that. I'm glad you caught that. So one of the things that I really wanted to do with this action team is, where was it at? Did I miss it?
There.
Here it is. I really want this to be not just a, hey, come and learn about equity and inclusion, but I want to invest in their personal development as employees. So TOPS facilitation is short for technology of participation, and it's a way to facilitate conversation. So facilitation is really, you have a conversation in a group and there's strategy around how you have that conversation. How do you help folks get through the conversation? And TOPS is a method that you can do that. So there's a there's a local certified specialist person in the area here that does that. And so I want the action team to go through that, so for their professional development. But then also they can hopefully host conversations in their areas that we could have equity and inclusion and other topics that they're kind of helping their teams talk through. Because when I come in, I'm the guy that sits in admin and no one knows me. But when it's a firefighter that's doing it and I'm partnering with them, the firefighter will have significantly more trust and more just credibility because they're firefighters and they walk in that work every day. So if they believe in it, then maybe their folks will believe in it versus I believe in it and then they're like, oh, I don't trust you, so I'm not gonna buy it. Make sense?
Or you don't understand what I'm going through and why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yes. Yes. And they give me a lot of really good insight, right? They help me think about like, well, Antonio, you know, to your point, firefighters are going through this right now. Police are going through this right now. Public works are going through this right now. So I'm like, well, I didn't even know about that. So let me think about how do we do our work together so that I'm not just pushing something onto you. I'm aware of this happened and you're carrying this and we need to do this together. So. All right. That's all I got. Send me an email if you want to have more conversations about that, either at our next meeting or one-on-one, whatever makes sense for you. But it's 8:04 now, and I need to get these folks out of here. So what that means is we're ready to adjourn our meeting. So we've finished our business items, and I think now we're ready to adjourn, so you could call for a motion to adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Mark,
Yeah.
You would second it.
General vote?
First, you gotta say it's been moved and properly
Been
seconded.
moved and properly seconded.
Yep, and now you call for your vote. So all those in
Okay,
favor?
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none? You did it, 8:05.
All right.